We've turned the computer on, and it's asking us to reboot and select a proper boot device or insert boot media. What this means is that it doesn't see an operating system on either of the hard drives, which is correct because right now they are both blank. It then tried to boot to a disk in the DVD drive, and right now there is no disk in the drive. We'll put in the Windows 7 install disk and press a key on the keyboard. What it's doing now is loading the initial files it needs to start the install. This usually takes about 5 minutes. If you're installing Windows Vista, the install process is almost exactly the same as Windows 7. The graphics are just a little different. If you need to install Windows XP on your computer, the XP installation video is available for free online at www.homepcbuilder.com/xp. We'll leave it on English and click Next, and Install Now. The retail versions of Windows 7 and Vista will ask if you want to install the x86 version or the x64 version. x86 is 32-bit, and x64 is 64-bit. If you buy the cheaper System Builder version of Windows 7 or Vista, you make the choice of 32-bit or 64-bit when you buy the disk. If your computer has more than 3.5 gigabytes of RAM, or you might upgrade to more than 3.5 gigabytes of RAM in the near future, you should choose the 64-bit version. Keep in mind that the 64-bit version of Windows 7 and Vista requires 64-bit drivers, so make sure the hardware you've installed into your computer either has 64-bit drivers on the disks that came with the hardware, or that they are available for download from the hardware maker's website. Also, the processor has to support 64-bit code. Just about every processor made in the last 4 years has 64-bit support. On this computer, we're going to choose the 64-bit version. I'll click Next. We'll accept the licensing terms, and Next. We're given 2 options here, Upgrade and Custom. If you have Windows Vista or a previous install of Windows 7 on your hard drive, you can choose the Upgrade option. This generally isn't recommended because of the time it takes to upgrade, and you will have a much smoother install and a cleaner computer if you choose the Custom Install option. We don't have a previous version of Windows on either hard drive, so the upgrade wouldn't work anyway. I'll click Custom, and we can see our 2 hard drives. There's the 1 terabyte hard drive and the 250 gigabyte drive. If your drives don't show up here, it's probably because you set up a RAID array. If this is the case, you will need to download the RAID controller drivers from the motherboard maker's website and copy them to a USB thumb drive. You can then click Load Driver and load the drivers from a USB thumb drive. We didn't set up a RAID array, so we don't need to load the drivers. We will cover RAID arrays in a separate set of videos later this year. And what it's telling us is that there's no way to go back to the screen we were on before, where we saw the hard drives. So we have to click Yes, and it restarts the setup. It only takes a few minutes to get back where you were. So I'll choose 64-bit, agree to the terms, and Custom. And we're back. We want to install Windows onto the 1 terabyte drive, and we could just leave it highlighted and click Next, and the setup would automatically partition the drive and format it. But we're going to do it manually under Drive Options. I'll click New, and it defaults to using the entire capacity for the partition. You can change the size of this first partition to be smaller, say if you want to install more than one operating system on the drive. Making the partition you install Windows and your programs on smaller can make it easier to back up the drive and restore the operating system and programs in case of drive failure, or if you just want to restore your system to a previous state. I'm going to let the partition use all of the available space on the drive. I'll click Apply, and OK. We'll format the drive, and it's done, and it's now ready to install Windows on. And the setup also created a 100 megabyte system reserve partition. Now this partition has Windows recovery information on it. If your computer gets to the point where it won't boot into Windows, the tools there can be used to repair the install. This is only done in Windows 7. On Windows Vista, those recovery tools are only available on DVD. For the second hard drive, the 250 gigabyte drive, we could partition and format it here, but we're going to wait until we're in Windows so we can show you how to do it after Windows is installed. We'll click the 1 terabyte drive, and it will become our C drive in Windows. At this point, it will be about 30 minutes until Windows needs your attention again, so it's a good time to take a break. We'll step through it quickly. The computer is going to restart. It's restarting the computer again. This usually takes about 5 minutes. It's asking us to type a username. When we filled that in, it automatically filled in the computer name with the username -PC, which is fine. We'll click Next. We're not going to enter a password. I'll click Next. We can either enter the product key now or wait until after the install. Windows will prompt you for it after a few days. I'll skip it for now. We'll use the recommended settings for Windows Update. We'll select our time zone, the date and time, and click Next. For the computer's location, we're going to set it as home network, which will make it so this computer can be seen by other computers on the home network. Finalizing the settings usually takes about 5 minutes. It restarted the computer again. Preparing the desktop usually takes about 5 minutes. That's it. Windows 7 is installed. In the next lesson, we'll install drivers for the hardware that Windows doesn't recognize, and we'll create a partition on the second hard drive and format it so it shows up in Computer.